Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today's guest is my good friend Mason Brooks. Mason is currently active in two different bands. Only the Strong, a pop punk band who just released their second single. It's called Wake Up Call, and you can find it on Spotify or anywhere you stream or purchase music. And a metal band called Where the Sickness Thrives. I personally had the pleasure of touring with Mason back when he was doing his own singer-songwriter sort of thing. And he's always really upbeat. He's a really hardworking kind of guy, and honestly, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better road companion than him. So please welcome my good friend, Mason Brooks.
Yeah, I had a friend that was like, I want to start a band, and I was like, just know it's going to suck before it's good. Like, there's so much bad things that happen before you start seeing, like, really good
Yeah,
things.
realistically... So, like, supposing you're already really competent on your instrument and you have, like, a really good ear for writing and knowing what's good and, like, a really defined idea of what you want it to sound like and everything already, and you get people that are 100% committed and, like, they're really into it, like, there's no reordering the band constantly.
Which is
not likely to happen, but assuming all of that, which is already a big jump, and then assuming you do 2 regular practices a week, you can probably budget 2 years before your show is really good.
Yeah. And we've gone through, we're on our 4th rhythm guitarist right now.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And like
100%.
This one is the most promising of the 4 so far.
Right.
But
so you're going to be really sad when he leaves.
Oh yeah. I'll be super bummed when he's in like this other band too, and I was like talking to him.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking to him a bit ago, and I was like, yeah, we should like do a side project and just kind of like make some random music, because like there's like this metal band called Issues that we're super into. And he was like, yeah, I'm not really looking to start another band. And I was like, oh, he's like, yeah, I think one band's good enough for me. And I was like, well, I was gonna ask you to be in my band, like my actual band, but I won't. And then like we did the music video and he was in it.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to ask. So I called him. I was like, hey, man, do you want to come audition for the band? And he was like, yeah, 100%. And I was like, nice. So
yeah, it helps. Like, when I started out, I wanted to do a band, right? Like, I wanted to play in a rock band initially.
Yeah.
And what I found was I just couldn't find people off the bat. Coming into a music scene, I didn't know a lot of people in it either.
Yeah.
But I found that I just couldn't initially off the bat find people that were interested in what I was doing and what they were doing, and I was young too, right, and all that stuff. So I just started doing my own thing, and then what I found was once you actually had some stuff, once you played some shows, once you had some material recorded, people were more interested to play with you. Right?
Yeah, one part of that is just people see the success and they're like, "Oh, I want to jump on that." Like even if it's not crazy, but like just like small amounts of like, "Oh, he's actually doing music, not just."
Well, it's because everybody's a musician, right? Like you can throw a rock into a crowd and hit a dozen different guitarists and a couple drummers and a bassist, and you know what I mean. Like
probably one bassist. Bassists are hard to find.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like it depends on what you're looking for, I guess, but because if you want somebody who can do multiple instruments and sing and everything, like, it's tough, right? But
yeah,
in a pinch, any guitarist can follow along on the bass. Doesn't make him a bassist, but yeah, for sure. But I feel like drummers are a tough one to find because it's almost the way that you have to, like, your drummer is also the rehearsal space guy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, if you finding a committed drummer means like you find the backbone of the band, in the sense that, like, not even just like rhythmically and musically and everything like that, but
just like practices.
You gotta, like, he's almost has to have the crib all the time, because otherwise, or you have to have somebody who wants to leave their kit set up in your other space or like whatever.
Yeah.
So I find drummers tough to find. And I don't really play with full drums very often, right? Like, even like just Logan just doing percussion and stuff like that. Yeah, but full drummers are a tough one to find, I feel like. Basically anybody who's not a guitar player, of some kind.
And I always find that, like, whenever I see a drummer with a band, they're either like subpar, like just kind of good,
or super
or just
good.
amazing,
like over the top.
There's
good.
no middle. It's it's like they're either like, okay, yeah, you can like kind of keep rhythm. Like we played with a band last weekend that I was like watching, and I'm like, you just hit the hi-hat the whole time. You didn't
Right.
hit any of your other cymbals.
Right.
And then we played, and then the band after them, the drummer was just like nuts, and I'm like,
Yeah.
yep, sounds about right.
Well, and it kind of makes sense too, right? When you think about it, because drums are super expensive and super labor intensive to play, where like to cart around and set up, and
It's a real commitment.
it is. It's 100%, because like even an entry level kit, like buying just a garbage first time kit is like $500, right?
Yeah.
Minimum. You and me, anybody who just wants to noodle around and figure out how a guitar works can go into any store and buy one for like $100.
Yep.
Or a pawn shop, you can buy a decent one for $200-300, right? Yep. And then as you like, there's scaling amounts of cost every time you want to go up a level in sound quality or get this or that or this specific whatever it is you're looking for, right? There's incremental cost upgrades that you can do, but I feel like as a drummer, it's a tougher, like, and to play around and to find the right kit, because I mean, you know, like even as a guitarist, you want to like mess around and find the one that's for you, like the one you really like, right? If you to do that as a drummer, it's a much more expensive investment to like to do something like that. I mean, you can play them in stores and stuff, I guess, but you get the idea. Like,
yeah. Well, and my guitarists in my like in my punk band and my metal band that I'm in, like I'll open up the band chat and it's just like 4-minute long conversations back to back, like just talking about, oh, I just heard of this new guitar, I'm gonna check it out and stuff. And I'm just like, I have my mic and like I don't even use it most of the time because venues always have mics.
What's your mic of choice?
I think it's I don't even know.
Oh, okay.
It's like a 52B or something, like SM52 or something.
58?
58.
58 beta?
Yes, that one.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's a good mic.
It was cheap too. It was $130 for the mic and the stand. So
the beta is more expensive. The beta I think has like all the sound guys. If any sound guys listen to this, will be like, what are you talking about? But the beta has like an extra little hook somewhere in the graph. I think it's around like 1200 hertz or something like that. It's just got a little spot where it's slightly different, but it's basically the same mic. And but yeah, the 58 is like the industry standard for sure.
Yeah.
I remember a while back I was looking at like buying. I wanted to buy like an expensive vocal mic. I'm like, oh, you know, I might as well have like a nice instrument kind of thing, right? And I was talking to a couple of sound tech friends. I was talking to Tyson Travnik and some other people. I was like, what's a good vocal mic? Like, what should I look at? What should I look at? And he's like, honestly, just go buy a 58. Go buy a 58 beta. Like,
yeah,
you know,
like it.
Unless you're going to spend like thousands of dollars on a tube mic, like,
yeah, they're not that different when you're not spending.
Yeah, and it's not like you can really run a condenser on stage. Like, just the sound pollution everywhere is just it just doesn't work that way. So
got it lucky, and it's always nice loading in because I'm just like, got it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm building a little bit of a different setup right now. Like what I want to do, and I haven't quite figured out how to do it yet, but what I want to do is I want to set up. Okay, so currently what I have right now is I have my DI, which is just a double DI that I use, so I can have two guitars running through this DI, right? It's just a double-sided standard art DI. And I also I haven't incorporated yet, but I have this like vocal pedal that I can use to just kind of add some vocal effects. And it's like I can stomp on and off things like harmonies or doublers and things like that.
Oh, that's cool.
But here's the thing I have to figure out, because sound guys hate these pedals. And I totally understand why, because there's so much, like they add so much variance to the sound, it's hard to mess with, because you'll step on this pedal and it's like, boom, 80 decibels of voice all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And so I can totally understand why they don't like it. But what I need to figure out is I need to figure out a way in order to basically double the vocal. And there's some things out there, but I'm not sure that I've quite found what I like yet. But so it's basically double the vocal. So I can give them a dry vocal, and then I can give them one of the pedal that's harmony.
Yeah.
And then they can run that as a separate line, and then they can leave it, like I can just like basically mute or unmute my harmony vocal that I'm producing from the pedal kind of thing. I thought it'd be kind of cool, like just a different setup, you know?
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a way to do it.
I'm sure there is. It's one of those things I was kind of looking at. And the cool thing about the pedal too is it's kind of like, so it'll harmonize your vocal, but I can also run my guitar through it, and it will basically lock to the key pitch that my guitar is producing. So let's say you stumble in your vocal and maybe you're just a little flat. Well, your harmony vocal won't be flat because it'll be locked to the key of your guitar pitch, right? So that I thought that was kind of cool. It'd be neat to incorporate, but I just haven't quite found the stuff to do it yet. And I thought it'd be cool too because I could put it all on a pedal board and have everything self-contained for touring, just like one case. And
that'd be sweet.
Yeah, so one of the things I'm looking at, but I thought that was kind of cool. Sorry. Anyway, you were talking about drummers and vocalists and the equipment that you have to carry. Yeah, I guess you don't really play guitar much on stage anymore, do you?
No, I kind of had this realization,
right,
where I was like, I'm not good at guitar.
Well, it's a commitment like anything else.
Like I'm good enough that if I want to do some acoustic shows or like do an acoustic song with the band and I play guitar, I can do it.
Right.
But it's just like I have no rhythm in my hands.
Okay.
Or my feet, for that matter. I'm not a good dancer. And I tried playing drums at my drummer's house, and I was just like, yeah, this isn't going to go well.
Right.
But I was like, I can't separate the rhythm in my hand from the rhythm in my head from like vocal lines when I'm doing like a rhythmatic line.
Yeah.
And so it's just hard to like do that. And then I was like, I also like, I think either this year or last year, I think last year was the first time I learned power chords. Like I know nothing, and I'm like slowly learning so much because I'm like doing like online lessons and stuff like that to like learn theory and learn like vocal parts and some guitar parts here and there. So I'm like getting better at it, but I'm just like I still have a long way to go before I could make it as an acoustic guitarist singer.
Sure.
And so I was like, I'm not going to waste time because it's going to take me forever to get to that point. I'll keep working towards it because I'd love to do it someday. Mm-hmm. But like there are other people who can play guitar better than me. And
sure.
And I've always liked punk music. And so I was like, I'm just going to start a pop punk band and go from there. And
I think that's a better outlook than, I mean, you can go on Kijiji right now and you can find ads for these like quote unquote singers that are like looking for a band and if they've never held an instrument, right? And hey, I don't mean to shit talk people if you're a really good singer, because there are singers out there that are just phenomenal vocalists and that's their instrument and that like they're really good at it and they've never touched an instrument. That's fine. But also every 12-year-old girl who's never held an instrument and never played a note is not a singer. Yeah. Like you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, right?
100%. Yeah.
And they have this idea that they're going to be like, you know, Michael Jackson, where the band he'll be there. They'll be like, boom, boom, and they'll make the noise with their mouth, and the band will just play a hit song. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it just doesn't work.
But they don't have a concept of how. And like, I mean, actually, and here's a question I want to ask you. It's sort of off the path of what I'm going at, but it'll relate in a second. How do you tend to write music with your groups? What's your? I guess let me clarify my question. Do you like organically from nothing write a song together, or do you guys tend to have like songs essentially more or less written or parts finished that you then bring together and then work out in practice?
It's a little bit of both. So like a lot of the songs that we started playing as like a band were songs that I wrote acoustically, and I was like let's just throw them together.
And that makes sense because they're finished songs that then can be improved through the work of practice and then other people adding their own things, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like it's easier to add like your own arrangement and write your own parts to like a song that already has structure and melody, and it's kind of, it exists already, you know?
Yeah. And then there's like we just started, like our newest song, Wake Up Call, was like guitar parts were written 100% by our like guitarist Kyle. He just like sat down one day and wrote the like opening riff, and I was like, dude, finish it. Like, I love it. Let's go. And then like when we finished that song, I was like, you want to sit down and write something else? And so we just sat down like as a group and was like, can anybody come up with something, or like, what do you guys want to do?
Right.
And so like we do a little bit of both. Sometimes it's just like, hey, I have this idea, let's flesh it out. And other times it's like, hey, we should do it together because we're...
So have you done that? Have you successfully like gotten together as the band and said, okay, let's write a song like from nothing? Like I have nothing, like let's just write a song together.
Yeah, like we're in the process of doing that right now. So like successfully, kind of.
Okay, like... this is interesting because I've had this conversation. with at least one other person on this podcast about this. Maybe two, like off the top of my head, but I've talked to various people about this, and this is something that interests me because I've sort of tried doing that with the odd person here or there. Not even necessarily a band. I did try to do that with my band once, and it was just a mess because it requires so much focus from every person involved, and the more people you have, the less focused you can. You know what I mean? Like it's so. Anyway, I've tried that essentially, and it doesn't seem to work. But what I found personally was when I write a song and I have at the like just bare bones of it, like I'll write, like verse, chorus, verse, like I'll write the whole song, and then I'll have a really basic chord structure and everything just built and then ready to be built up from there. I'll bring that into the atmosphere of the band or whoever else, songwriting partner, whatever. And then from that point, then we can flesh out all these other parts and like make the song great. Maybe change a vocal line, like you know what I mean. Like rewrite it together, but have like a jumping off point. But I've never been able to do that where I just sit down and say, "Okay, you and me right now, from nothing.
Yeah, let's write.
let's write a song." You know what I mean? I've never been able to do that.
It's definitely a harder way. The only reason I like doing it is because
it's cool for sure.
Well, like not even that. I like the idea that everybody's inputting to each part because like my guitarist Kyle is like just this suit, like he's one of the guitarists in our metal band, and he is just so shreddy, like he's so talented on guitar, and I'm blown away each time. And so like he always goes off in like the little like, oh, I could just do like a quick little scale or whatever here and like just shred. And then my bassist Nico is like super good with rhythm, and so he'll like come up with a rhythm part, and then Kyle will just go over it, and then Kane, our drummer, will just like build on top. And so I love seeing that because I'm like, everybody gets to do what they want because we're working on it together. But when you come forward with an idea, which there's like the upside is you come forward with an idea, you get to decide where it goes, like kind of like the band builds on it and makes it better or changes parts, but like you have already written the song, you know where you want it to go. But when you have 4 or 5 people all going, well, I'm hearing this and I'm hearing this, it's just like, it's cool because you get all these different ideas and you can make things that you never would have thought of. Yeah. But it's also hard because sometimes you're like, but that's not where I want this to go.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's like I just kind of always felt like it was just too much anarchy. Like there was no shortage of ideas, but there was a severe lack of follow through with the ideas. Like, because you can never, like, if you don't have a solid, at least a jumping off point, like something written where you can, okay, let's do this, let's work on this. Then I found that you come up with, it was more like a brainstorming session than a songwriting session because you'd spend so much time noodling around, coming up with ideas. Okay, this is a song about this. Is it about that? Here's a vocal line. Let's change it to this. Actually, scrap that. Let's write a totally different vocal line. And it just feels, for me, it was just frustrating because I feel like nothing would get done. You know what I mean? Whereas if I were to write a song, or at the very least, like one finished part, like a chorus or a verse or something, you know what I mean? And I'd send it to everybody, like I'd record it and send it to everybody. Then they can say, yeah, I like it. No, I don't like it. Or, oh, I'll try this. And then we can like work on it that way.
Yeah.
Like I've done it where I wrote a song and then in practice, everybody's just like, I don't really like that chorus. And I'll rewrite a whole new chorus there. Like, that's fine. But at least you know, like, somewhere to start, right? Like,
yeah. Well, yeah. I'm always like, I always feel like such a dick whenever I write something because, like, I generally just want the best song we can make.
Right.
And so, like, when people tell me, like, oh, I don't know if I like that, I don't take offense because I'm just like, it is what it is. If you don't like it, like, if in the writing process there's parts of a band that doesn't like it, we can't continue with it because our heart's not going to be in that part.
True.
And so, like, this one time I came to practice and I wrote this whole spoken word part for one of our songs. And I think it was Kane was like, I don't know if I like that. And I was like, all right, cool, we'll do something else. And he just kind of like looked at me and everybody kind of looked back at me. I was like, yeah, dude, I don't care. Let's just do it. Yeah. And like, I think everybody in the moment was just like, why is he being such a jerk? Like, he just said that like he didn't like it and now he's like, all right, fine, we won't do it. But I was like,
oh, they misinterpreted.
I was honestly just like, dude, I just don't care. Like, if it's not good, I'm not gonna do it. Like,
well, it would be different though. Like like it's one thing to write a part that like like this is decent and maybe you're not like super attached to it, but like because would it be different if you wrote a part that like you felt like, oh, this is really good, guys, I'm excited to show you this?
Oh, I was really excited for it because
okay.
it was like super emotional and
Yeah.
just like this heart-wrenching spoken word part.
Oh,
And then
okay.
Kane was just like, I don't know if I like it. I was like, all right, cool. Like,
fair enough. Yeah.
Like
I wouldn't take the criticism that well personally.
Oh.
I'm a little bit too. I think I'm maybe a little bit too much of a narcissist to be like that.
I'm
cool
I'm
with
rude
it.
to my bandmates when they write parts that I don't like, so
Oh,
I can't.
really?
I'm like, I can't be like, how dare you?
You
And
could
then,
dish it out, but you have to take it then.
So
right?
I'm just like, all right, well, like if 1 in 5 people don't like it, we're limiting our audience already. And so
Right.
I'm just like, you know what, we can make it better. And so
No, I agree. Like the whole band has to be stoked about what they're playing for sure. Like you don't want like the bass player to be like, oh, I just hate this. This sounds stupid. I don't like playing it. Like that's not a good mood for people to be in, right? So like I totally get that. And yeah, like there's some I guess that is the other aspect of writing that way is you have to really cannibalize your ego. You got to be real open-minded and open to criticism for sure. And like like musicians, I think generally, it's such a weird thing because I feel like there's like a healthy amount of narcissism that goes into being a musician
100%.
or any type of entertainer, right?
Yeah.
Because you think about it, to be the kind of person like to step back and to say, okay, I'm going to stand in front of X amount of people, 20, 100, 1,000, 10,000, whatever. And I'm going to play this song and everybody's going to love it and it's going to be great and I really like it and I'm proud of it and have like this whole, because it's such an intimate thing for most people to write a song and deliver it, right? That I feel like that requires like a certain amount of narcissism that maybe is a little above the average person.
Yeah. Well, you have to believe in yourself.
But it's a balancing act, right?
Yeah.
It's a balancing act because then the other side of it is like, hey, if I'm too high on the hog, if I'm too confident in this stuff and I can't take criticism and stuff, then it's just like you're not a good person anymore.
Yeah. Well,
like,
and I've had people come up to me at shows, like either friends or like just random people that were seeing another band, and they're like, "Wow!" Like we played this one show with the metal band, and we got off stage, and this guy walks up to me. He's like, "I saw you and went, this isn't gonna be a good band. Like their lead singer looks like this, like snotty little kid." Because I just how I dress very posh sometimes. And,
yeah, you're a pop culture looking guy.
Yeah,
I get it. Yeah.
And then I like got up and started singing, and he was like, "I was so surprised because you can actually sing." And I sat there and I was like, "Yeah, like I don't think I'm the best singer, but I know I'm good. Like I know I can sing. I have faith in myself. I have that
like
confidence."
you work like here. That's the thing, right? Like I've talked about this with people before. It's like there's the fear of doing a bad job, and that's like a good thing because it makes you more attentive in practicing, and so that you do a good job, right? Like 'cause you're afraid to do a bad job. So.
Yeah, well, and I do such a bad job at practice. like I'll be at practice.
You don't though, because you work hard. Like you take lessons and you do have a regimen of warm ups. Like you forget. We toured together.
That's true.
I've seen you.
That's
I've
true.
seen you do warm ups, and I've seen the things like you do work hard. So for sure, like I don't think that, and I understand. Like I kind of understand what a guy like that means in one hand, because you see a kid that dresses like a kid and kind of acts, because you're an upbeat bubbly guy, right?
Yeah, I don't look like I play in a metal band.
Right, exactly.
Like 100%.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, like you could kind of look at that and go, oh, this kid doesn't have any dedication. This kid doesn't work hard. You know what I mean? You can almost assume that. I'm not saying it's right, but
oh no, yeah, for sure. Like
yeah.
and like everybody in my metal band except for our newest guitarist even our newest guitarist, they all have tattoos. Like
right.
And I'm just like no tattoos, clean cut dude,
Yeah,
shave, and I
very
dye my
Caucasian,
hair. Like
yeah, exactly.
Like
very, very, very mellow.
Yeah,
I get it. Yeah.
So like I fully understand when people are like, when I play metal band shows, but even punk shows, I'm like, but I look like a pop punk dude. Like I dress, because they all dress like very like pop culture and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I try and dress like that when I play with the pop punk band, and I'm like, I mean, I just wish people wouldn't be like, you can actually sing, and I'm like, that's a backhanded compliment.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, but, that's not nice. But there's, as much as you hate it, like, people do judge books by their covers, right? And to a degree, it's almost a good thing in a way. I mean, you got to accept it a little bit, because if they didn't, if we weren't visual like that, where we judged it like the book by the cover, and you know what we saw mattered, we wouldn't go to the shows, right? We would just sit at home and stream it online and listen to it. So you can't, like, I get what you're saying, and I've been there too. Like, not a fan of the.
And like, even just like in how you dress on stage, like there's somebody that like I fully respect as an artist. Like, they're phenomenal, their band's amazing, and he was talking to me and he was like, you need to show up with your band and look like you're in a band. Like, you need to come in as a unit, even if you're not coming in at the same time, like you're all scattered. People need to see you and be like, oh, they're part of like a band, or they're part of that band, because they all look the same. And so it's like how you dress is super important.
I think there's definitely something to be said about the unification of the group. Like, you think about, because. And I think there's an argument to be made somewhat against it too, and I'll get to that. But I definitely agree with that. Like, where you think about any business, any really popular business, their employees wear uniforms. Everybody has uniforms. You can, like, it's unity. We're together. You and me are the same, right? Like, it's a fact, right?
Yeah.
So for sure, I guess the only place where I kind of run into trouble with it is where it's still art.
Yeah.
Like we're business and we're art, you know, like it's a marriage of those two things. And where we're art, there also has to be a semblance of breaking the rules. You know what I mean? So, like, let's say, for example, your music is about sort of being the average guy. Like, it's supposed to be like that blue collar feel, like I'm like every guy, like that real old school rustic country vibe.
Yeah.
Right? If that's the case, probably you don't want to dress up and look like a level above everybody else.
You want to just look like everybody else.
Because that's your shtick, right? So, like, I mean, like, you're right. I totally, and there may, you know what? Hey, there's probably ways to be both, right? There's probably ways to do that, to be a unit and to, like, convey you're a unit together. Like, you're a band, you're professional, you're put together, everything like that, and still, you know, maintain some of that artistic integrity for whatever it is that you're doing. But, like, yeah, it's a funny thing, isn't it? Like, it's
and it's something that, like, just starting out, I was like, who cares how I dress? Like, I just gotta look nice.
I agree. I had that in my head too.
And then, like, I noticed that when I started dressing like my band, like how people would expect me to look and stuff like that, and like kind of representing the content of the songs and stuff like that, people were more excited to see us on stage. Like, people were just more into it because we looked like we do that.
Yes. And it's that's the thing too, is what you said there, I think you really hit the nail on the head, is dressing like you sound.
Yeah.
Or you know, to even go like a step further than that, looking like you sound is a big thing. Like, cuz I've done both ways. Like, I've tried, I kind of did like, when I first started, I was like more of the skinny jeans, pop punk sort of dress look, like, so, but it doesn't really fit my sound, right?
Yeah.
And then I went the other way. I tried, like, you know, like the you know, dress up in ties and stuff like that, and I'm like, you know, that's not really right either. Like, I'm not really playing that kind of music either. And so I don't know, maybe I haven't quite found mine yet. I just find, like, I feel like my songs are more like reaching out to people, I feel like, some of the time. So I try to dress, dress like a homeless person nowadays, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like,
I've always looked at, like, how you dress on stage and stuff, and like like how it relates to your music, and you look like a genuine person. Like, that's how you dress, and like that's how I've always taken it, because you're like even when you're like looking homeless, you just like you dress like well enough that I'm like, that is somebody that I could
wear clean clothes.
Yeah,
yeah. Don't get me wrong,
but like,
I don't stink.
But I see you on stage, and I'm like, yeah, that's somebody that, like, I would feel comfortable, like, connecting with, like, that I could talk to and stuff. Fair. Like that. Yeah. And, like, your music to me has always been about that, like, outreach, like, you're not alone, like, connecting kind of feel.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
So that's how I've always looked at, like, how you dress on stage, and I'm like, yeah, I totally see him playing his music, because it fits.
Cool. Well, I appreciate that. That's a nice compliment. I didn't pay him to say that. So
He did. He did so much money.
It wasn't that much money. Mason's broke.
That's true.
He'll
it was
do
like
anything
it was like
for
$2.
He'll do anything for $5 now.
Dude, I have a rule with money that I've had since high school, and it's such a dumb rule, but like when I was in high school, I was working a dishwashing job, and I was so broke because I hadn't been paid yet for like because the job was a mess. Like I still don't have my T4 and like got in trouble with like for it and like had to deal with it, and I went and got it. Yeah, because they just never gave it to me. Like they gave me one, but then didn't give me the other, which I was like, why are you giving me two? And
what?
so
Wait. They gave you one
two T4s for 1 year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it was like the first one they gave to me in February or something.
Oh, yeah.
And the second one,
I can tell you why. Then you know why? Because if you do it before the end of tax season, which I can't remember the exact day here in Canada, but if you have any days before the specific day, it might even be December 31st or whatever. Then that's a separate tax year. So
but I didn't get it till September. Or I didn't even get it in September. They like said they submitted the taxes in September.
That's bizarre.
And so I like called
like by law they're supposed to have it to you by the end of March or something.
That's
like that.
what the person said when I called them, and I was like when I was talking to the person for the government or whatever, and I was like, I don't have this. Like, why did they submit it in September? I was like, I don't know. Like I'm confused, but
somebody didn't know what they're doing or something. That's crazy.
But they were screwing me with my paycheck. I hadn't been paid in a month and a half. I'd been working there, like I just started, and they were like, okay. And I worked my first 2 weeks, and they're like, oh no, you didn't give us this form. So I gave it to them, and then a month came, like the next 2 weeks went by, and they're like, oh well, we didn't submit it in time, so it'll take 2 more weeks. So at this point, I had like $3 in my bank account, and I was like, I'm so broke, like I can't afford anything, and I was starving, and I got off work. I was supposed to work till like 9. I ended up working till 11:30. Which that was the other thing. They wouldn't pay me past 9, even though I like had, and I was like, okay, well then I'm not working past 9. They're like, then you're fired. And I was like, okay, then I'll just continue working. And so that was super illegal too. But
I always hear stories about that, but I've never personally experienced anything like that.
Yeah.
But
But
definitely you could report them.
No, for sure. But I went to McDonald's, and I was like, I'm gonna buy a junior chicken and a McDouble. Like, if I can afford a junior chicken and McDouble, I'm good.
McDouble is my favorite budget meal.
Yep, I had 2 of them today on the way up.
Yep, $2.20 for a McDouble, man. I get 2 McDoubles, and that's a quick meal. It's a small meal.
But they had just like, it was back when they were like, because they used to be cheaper.
Oh yeah,
and then they raised the price, and I didn't know because it was like that week they raised it. So I went to pay, and I only had $3, and it was $3.56, and so I'm like sitting there,
and they
like,
badgered you for 56 cents.
No, they gave it to me. They were so nice about it. But I'm like, I like pull off, and I get my food, and I just start like crying because I'm like, I'm so broke. So I have a rule, and the rule is, as long as I can afford a McDouble and a junior chicken, everything's okay.
Yeah, it's true. It's a good point.
So,
it's a good point.
Yeah, so it's just like, that's my financial rule, is if I can afford that, it could always be worse, because there are people who can't. And so but yeah, since high school I've always been able to afford a junior chicken and McDouble, so life's been good. Getting close to not being able to afford it again, which is scary.
There's been a few days where there's minus whatever in the bank account. I've experienced that. It's a hard world out there these days. I mean, not that it hasn't always been a hard world, but I think people don't realize exactly what's like. We were talking before we started recording, talking about like, you know, the hours you have to work if you feel like you want to get ahead and you actually want to establish yourself. Like, I know my dad always told stories about working the 3 jobs, you know, working nights, and you told me similar stories about your dad and stuff like that. And everybody thinks that. I think everybody thinks they deserve to work 40 hours a week, and then they should just have everything figured out for them. Like, that should be enough to own this and that and that. And I'm like, thinking to myself, I'm like, that was never true of my dad or my grandparents or anybody. Like, I think we have to work hard. Like, if you want to work 40 hours a week, like, sure, there's going to be jobs that, you know, are like that, but I don't think that that's the reality for a lot of people. And I don't think anything that we can do is ever going to be the reality of that, unfortunately.
I think that if you want to stay in the same place 40 hours a week is justifiable.
It's and you have to like position yourself for that too, because it's not like every job can support that type of a lifestyle and that wage and everything like that.
But like anytime you want to get further than you are, it like
nose to the grindstone.
Yeah. Like the amount of overtime I've put in jobs,
and you got to be willing to do it too. Like that's the other thing that bothers me is the attitude of it. It's like, well, you know, I should be 40 hours a week. People are happier when they only work 40 hours a week. And it's like, okay, but like, what are you working towards then? Like, if that's your attitude, it's like, I should get ahead by just doing what's expected of me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because everybody's kind of expected to work 40 hours a week, right? Like, like, not that you're expected to, but like, that's the standard work week. Like, that's the normal, right? If you want to get ahead, you work harder, not do more of the same.
Well, and like, especially with music, like, it's expensive. Like, just sitting there being like, okay, well, we want to put out a single, but it's $500. And then like, if you want to record it,
and like that's cheap too.
Yeah.
Like that's yeah.
And our last music video we got done for super cheap too. We got it for $750, but like
that's good. Yeah.
Our next one's going to be like $1,500.
Yeah.
And so
we're
like setting up things, and it's like just the price of an EP is crazy. Like, and all the advertising you have to do if you want to tour off of it, if you want to buy merch for it, like, or like merch to like promote yourself.
For sure.
Like, it's so expensive. There's so many things.
It's an investment, right? And I mean, like, there's ways to. It depends on what your strategy is and what you want to do exactly. Like, I was actually talking to my dad about this the other day, because he was talking about, oh, you know, blah blah blah, you should do this and get your music on the radio and stuff. And I'm like, you have no concept of how expensive radio is. Like,
yes, it's just ridiculous.
Like you said, like let's assume I'm doing an EP. Let's say it's 5 to 6 songs. On that EP, 1 or 2 if you're lucky, are viable radio singles.
Yeah,
because you don't want to like, everybody says, oh, I want an album with all radio hits. You don't want an album of radio hits. You don't, because people don't like to listen to radio hits.
Yeah,
like there has to be something for everybody. If your album was all radio hits, that's what we call a one-hit wonder, right? Like, it's just anyway. There's got to be flavor in that album. There's got to be stuff that people listen to and then they learn to like, and stuff they like immediately, and stuff they don't like because somebody else will like that. Like, there's just so many. Anyway, so like, assuming you're doing like a 5 to 6 song album and there's 1 to 2 radio singles on there that you could do potentially, that album's going to cost you generally about $1,000 a song. Yeah. So $5,000 to $6,000. And then you need a marketing budget of some kind, aside from radio.
Yeah.
Right? So you should, I've heard people say that you should put whatever you're putting into the making of your album and double that for your budget. Not that that's viable for most artists.
Yeah, like that's so much.
Yes.
Until you get to a point where you're like actually making money off of music, it's just not viable.
Now,
but, like, the idea is there.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I mean, to be fair, it's not all at once. It's over a period of a year, right? So it's more, but anyway, regardless, the thing is though, now all of that aside, your radio marketing budget is going to be, at least $5,000, depending on how many stations you're targeting. Like, let's say you're targeting Canadian radio stations, you'll send it off to a couple hundred stations that maybe that are in your realm of genres, right? Like, that are kind of at least open to hearing your type of music. And assuming you have a good song that you're sending them, you know, paying a radio promoter to make sure that they see that and hear it is expensive. And it happens over a period of weeks. And then after that, if you're really lucky, like if your song is good, the information that I understand, or that I've researched and seen, is basically, if you have a really good song, 1/10 of those stations will pick you up. Yeah. And that's pretty good. Like that's actually in the realm of marketing. 1/10 is a good return on your escapes my head right now what I'm trying to say. But that's a good margin. A good margin of return. 1/10 of what your total pool is. So it's a tough one. Like, who has 6 then another $5, and then another $10,000. Like who has that?
Yeah.
I don't have $20,000. Do you have $20,000?
No, dude.
Exactly.
I got 50.
Yeah,
Like-
exactly. And there's ways to do, like, this is the whole thing. Like, you got to be thrifty, right? You got to learn to kind of like do your thing and save a buck where you can, right? Like, for sure, utilize what you have. Maybe learn how to do some recording yourself if that's possible. You know, learn how to do some guerrilla marketing and how to make that work for you. Like, there's ways to get around some of those costs, but all in all, there's going to be things like you can't do everything, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have to pay somebody at some point.
Exactly.
So the reality is there's going to be cost.
Well, and even trying to just get around those costs, like the amount of money you have to put in before you figure out how to get around
Or time,
it.
and time is money, right?
Yeah, that too.
Whichever way you look at it.
Like when we put out Wake Up Call, and we had this like agency, like a PR agency, message us, and they were like, "Hey, we like saw your song and we want to help you advertise for it." And I was just like, dude, I don't know if I can like justify giving you the money. Like, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you've done. And like, like I was like, we've made so many mistakes because that's what you do. You make mistakes until you learn.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I think this is just going to be another one. And so we decided not to take that risk, but like, yeah, you have to find the right avenue. And sometimes that means you can do it yourself. And other times it means you have to pay somebody. And when you have to pay somebody, you have to hope it's the right person. And they can do the right thing.
It's a growing risk of itself. Like, this new age of the internet, right? It's opened the doors for musicians in a way that it hasn't before. Because a lot of people talk really poorly about things like Spotify and digital streaming revenue and all that stuff because it's so low, and those companies tend to underpay their artists that are rightfully so on their platforms, right? All that being said, we don't have quite the same gatekeepers that we had before in the industry. Like, a lot of people don't necessarily know the history of what it was like to have a record label behind you just to even get in a studio.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because they wouldn't take you.
for under $1,000, you can build yourself a pretty decent home recording studio where you can record high quality, low quality, as good as you're capable of producing, right?
Yeah.
And then from that point, you can get good bass recordings, and you can hire a good producer or whatever, depending on the route you're going, right? There's a million different ways to make that work way more affordably. Whereas, again, back in the day, you had to be really good. You had to have really good songs, and then you'd have to convince a record label to invest like thousands of dollars in you, and then like. There was these gatekeepers that you had to impress, and now we have the ability to get our music to the market so much more affordable. Like, there's less money, it seems like, in the per listen avenue, but at least we can get through the gate now. You know.
Yeah.
All that being said, there's definitely some challenge there in regards to how we can monetize our music. I think there's ways to do it. Like, I'm no expert, believe me. Like, I'm living as low on the hog as anybody. You know,
I feel.
But I feel hopeful. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like I have to impress some 60-year-old guy with a neck beard who's snorting cocaine off of a hooker's back, telling me that my music needs to have more cowbell in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no gatekeepers. At least we can get our music out there now, and then how we monetize it and what that turns out to be is going to end up, in the general market. And there's some fuckery with the algorithms in terms of this is popular, this is not. I'm sure there's all that, but at least people can get to the music now.
Yeah. Well, and like, it's kind of a blessing and a curse in a sense, because like, it's so easy to put out music now. Like, there's so many avenues, but like, that's also a problem when there's like, before you were competing to get a hold of one person's attention because he can open up the doors for you.
Yes. Now
you're competing to get everyone's attention because
I feel like the bar, that's a good point. Like, the bar has lowered a little bit too, because no offense to you, and I mean, I say this at myself as well, probably by the old industry standards, neither of us would be good enough to get a record deal.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Like, Yeah.
Yeah, I fully accept that. Like, and so I'm glad just to be able to live in a world where, I can own a microphone that is in front of you recording right now, and I can own this recording software that we're making this podcast, and that I can record music and like all that stuff. Like, at least there's a jumping off point. But you're right, the market is oversaturated because there are a lot of people who I feel like they have these grandeur ideas of what they want, and and there's room for that too, in the sense of like if there's people that just want to record a couple of songs and then get it out there and then just live their life, right? And maybe don't necessarily want to play stadiums and do the whole famous artist touring lifestyle. I think there's room for that, but we're just in a weird place. Like, the industry's changing so much, and it has changed so much. I don't think anybody's been able to keep up with it yet.
No, well, and genres just like,
oh yeah,
they die so fast. Like, it just like not even like dead, but like
well, it's so hyper targeted now, right? Because if you really like this one band, they're like 3 acronyms you can use for their subgenre.
Yeah,
that are really hyper specific, right?
Yeah, and so like that like specific genre could be big for like a couple years, but then like it could die out pretty quickly. Like, like one of the like genres that I guess has kind of died out, which is rough because it's kind of how we sound, is easycore for pop punk. It's because it's like super heavy, but it's pop punk.
Right.
And so like that's why we try and find like the fine line between, is this too easycore, is this too, but like it is a genre that's hard to bring back because it was big for a time and now it's not as big anymore.
And there's again, this is another thing where there's like advantages to that too, because the more hyper targeted your audience is, like the more theoretically the easier it is to get to those specific people.
Yeah, because you need to advertise
exactly too. So it just bothers me when I see people like on Facebook bitching about Spotify not paying people enough and stuff. Like, dude, I get it. I 100% get it. I would like to be paid more for my streams too. Don't you think I'd like to be paid more for my streams?
Everyone would.
But I think we're a little jaded in the sense where like we just don't appreciate the age we're living in. Like, this is a good time to be making music. Yeah, there's way more people making music before. Yeah, show attendance and stuff is down, but at least we can record our bloody music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I 100% believe that 10,000 people, only one of those would make the cut for the record labels that would keep the gate before, And so like, and does that mean they're not worth listening to, or they wouldn't write good music? No, it just means they wouldn't fit the mold that was placed there for them.
Yeah.
And so it's a good thing. Like, I'm hopeful. Like, I agree. Like, totally. I'm rambling.
No, like
it bothers me when people are negative about it.
Like there's a record company like Rise Records. They're like, I've always seen them as a metal record company. Like, that's how I viewed them. And I think there's a band called Secrets that's signed to them, and they're a metalcore band. They have like tons of screaming, tons of really great singing, have breakdowns, stuff like that. But then there's also this band called Makeout that's like one of the poppiest punk bands I've ever heard. Like, their music is so like it does what it tries to do. Like, it 100% achieves it, because it's like, we want to be a pop band, but we want to play it punk. And so they do a great job of it, but they're also signed to Rise Records, and that wouldn't have happened years ago. Like,
no.
Because,
and you only had a few real record labels too, and there was lots of independents that, said they could do the job, or that they had connections to these places and that place, but they didn't.
But like, record labels used to be so targeted. Like, it was like, we are this kind of record label, and we like, that's our audience. But now, because music has become so connected, like 9 times out of 10, metal or punk or pop or rock, those aren't the only genres you listen to. You listen to so many other.
That's
like,
true. Yeah.
Like, I listen to rap, punk, metal, rock, alternative, like, you name it, I listen to it. I even like classical music. It's fantastic. But like, all of those acts could be on the same record label, and I wouldn't even think about it, because they're like, we need to appeal to as broad an audience as possible, because you can now. You have the like the options,
and you can hyper specific market to those audiences individually for your acts,
exactly,
without sacrificing your audience of the other act. Like like the way that online marketing works now is very impressive in how you can directly get to the people that you know are going to be really likely to like what you're producing, right?
Yeah. Well, and like even just in terms of like genres being like all pushed together with labels, like the Blink-182 and Lil Wayne tour.
Yeah,
Like,
I know,
like,
right?
like I sat there and I was like,
Really?
Like that's
What?
that's the group that you're gonna send out on tour? And like people who went to it loved it. Like it was a great show, but I was just like, I don't know how I would feel about that. But it worked.
I think there's a third demographic, because okay, so what do you have on this bill here? You have I guess Lil Wayne is like rap, right? Would you consider him? Is there a subgenre that you would consider him, or just rap? Just rap?
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know. I don't know enough about rap to like classify subgenres.
Me either.
Yeah.
I personally I respect I respect your enjoyment of the art form. I am not a.
That's fair.
I hate rap.
It's not for everyone.
Anyway,
just like punk music.
Yeah, well, fair enough. Anyway, so you have like on this bill, you have a rap artist, and then you have Blink-182, like a pop punk sort of band, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a third subset of fan that will attend that concert, and I don't think they're necessarily a pop punk fan or a rap fan. I think you have concert fans.
Yeah,
because if you think about it, like those are huge shows. Like Blink-182 is a huge show, and Lil Wayne is a huge show.
Yeah.
Like they're just massive, huge production shows, right? And so you're also gonna have like the Blink-182 fans that'll go to their show and then probably leave when Lil Wayne gets on, or vice versa. And the Lil Wayne fans that'll leave when if they're not into it. But I think you have people that are just like concert fans that just like to party at like live shows. Because I know people that don't give a flying rat's ass about electronic dance music, but they'll go to these big like rave parties like Soundwave and stuff.
Yeah,
because
it's crazy. They're just insane.
But they don't care about the music at all, right?
Yeah.
They just want to party. So
No,
I think you
for
have just
sure.
like party fans, like concert fans that just want to party at a concert with a bunch of people and like hang out and stuff. And like that's cool. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying, like, I guess it's just I think there's more people that are like those people aren't separated by genre as much. I think they just want to go to a show where they can freak out and have a good time.
Yeah, well, and like some of it too is just like iconic bands. Like
That's true. Yeah,
I like, and like I always say this, and people give me dirty looks, and they're like, "Really?" And I'm like, "It's just how I feel." I don't like Metallica. Like
fair enough.
I've never liked any of their songs. Like they're good.
Yep.
They were really good for their time, but I like newer music better.
They just don't tickle your fancy. I totally get that.
But if somebody said Metallica's coming to town and I have an extra ticket, I would go
because it's a big show, right?
Because it's Metallica.
Yeah,
that's an icon. Like that's a band that you can go see and then turn around and be like, I saw Metallica. It's
sure.
the same thing with Blink-182. Like Blink-182 is one of the icons of pop punk. Blink-182, Green Day, Sum 41. They're all huge bands that even if you don't like, it's like, but you can say you saw them, and some people will resonate with that and be like, oh, that's so cool. I wish I could have gone. And so like sometimes it's just like for the experience,
for the sake of the show.
Yeah, like you're just like, I just wanted to see it. And like I saw Sum 41 at Warp Tour, the last Warp Tour. And like not this year, but the year before. And it was insane, but like I didn't like their new stuff as much. And so I think they played just All Killer No Filler, which is like their Does This Look in Fact, I don't know, it was one of their older albums. They played like the whole album front to back, and I was super into it. But like if they had played any of their new stuff, I wouldn't have known it or cared, because I don't like Sum 41 long time ago I was super into, and like their music's still good, it's just I don't care about it anymore. It's not for me, and so I'm like, I would still go to that show, but I'd be like, yeah, their old stuff is better. But like, I saw Sum 41, like that's crazy. And like, I remember.
Do you feel? Sorry to interrupt you. Do you feel like you enjoy a show more if you know the material?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Or does is there like, what's the bell curve of like, this band is so huge, but I don't know any of their songs, but I still really want to see them and I'll have a great time there, versus this band is incredible and I know I'm going to sing all their songs along with them. Like, what's the bell curve of like, I enjoy this as much as this? Do you think that?
I think I would enjoy knowing the material more. Like, I think being super into a band would make it more fun for me.
Yeah.
In the moment, like I would love the concert more.
Yeah.
But like, in terms of like seeing icons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like that would be something that I wouldn't enjoy as much in the moment, but like afterwards I'd be like, oh yeah, I saw them. Like it's
Right,
just
okay.
it's like more of a story kind of thing.
Sure.
And like
Yeah.
Neck Deep, which is like a really big pop punk band from England. I did not know who they were, and my little brother showed them to me, and I was like, yeah, okay, like whatever. I don't really see the point.
Right.
And then I went and saw them live, and they're one of my favorite bands now. Like
They just had a killer live show, eh?
oh well, not like that, and like I actually learned, like I listened to the songs there and was like, oh, these songs are pretty good, and then like going back and listening to them and seeing what I saw live in my head as I'm listening to them,
Right.
I'm like,
Okay.
oh my gosh, these are amazing. Because if you put on a good show and then you have good music,
It sort of turned your perspective on the material you already had heard, eh?
yeah,
Like,
and like
yeah.
there's bands or artists that I've seen that I'm like, oh, I'm so in them, and then I go see them live and I'm like, and I don't like them anymore.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that I've done more than what you said before, where like you heard the material, then you saw the band, and then you liked the material. I don't know that I've done that, but I've definitely heard bands where I'm like, oh, I really like this band, and then I go to see them and I'm like, it was mediocre.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it wasn't
for real.
awful. They weren't off key or anything, but it was just a boring show. Like all they did was just stand there and play, and it was boring. Like I've
Yeah.
definitely seen that, and that's a hard one to swallow, especially if it's a band you really like.
I know. It's rough because you're like, we're so excited for it. Like there was somebody, and I won't bash an artist.
Throw them under the bus.
but like there was somebody that I was really excited to go see, and I went and saw them, and I was like, wow, that was boring. Like it just wasn't interesting, and like
Yeah.
that's why as like a band we make sure that we do a good job
Yeah.
on stage. Like that's because like in one of our songs I flip over Kyle because I'm like it looks cool, and
Right.
like I've only landed it like 50% of the time, but like people still come up to me afterwards, especially when I don't land it, and they're like, that was crazy, and I'm like, yeah, because like it looks cool and it's something people remember.
Right.
And it's also why like I don't do it as much anymore, but like when we started playing more shows with like the punk band and stuff, I would go around and get people to sign me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'd just be like, yo, sign me, and they're like, you're the band, shouldn't I be asking you that? And I'm like, no, I want you to sign me. I want these like pictures on Instagram. And like it's funny because whenever people sign me, they'll come up to me after the show and be like, where'd my signature go? Because I just sweat it all off. It's so gross. I'm just like, you don't want to touch me. You don't want to look for it. I'm really sorry.
You know what? I do that too. Like and that might sound weird to people that have maybe heard my music but never seen me play live. It would make more sense had you seen me play live. But yeah, I do that too. I get pretty sweaty. Like
Well, and lights are hot.
the lights are very
Like,
hot. Stage
they're
lights are
so
warm.
hot.
Yeah.
One of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given was Luke from Calling All Captains, the singer from them. He was like, just put a fan on stage, like a small one.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, that's genius.
You know my buddy Tyson, right? Tyson Travnik?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so he got licensed in Pyro this last
Oh
year, 2
my.
years ago. But I didn't realize this, but Pyro is also a lot more than like fire, right? It's actually like explosions and cryogenics and stuff as well. So his band is like, it's like this they're like this death metal band, right? And so they set up like cryo geysers and stuff like that. So it's like this big explosion of like CO2 ice into the air and stuff.
That's so crazy.
And like lights are hot. That burst of cryo when you're on stage is like, it's just a beautiful mist. Here we go.
So good.
It's just such a like,
so good.
It's, you wouldn't believe it. I have a video I'll show you on my phone later of what it looks like when it bursts off, but it's pretty cool. And again, for like a band that's not like a stadium band or anything, it's unreal when you see something like that in a small club.
Yeah, well, and like that's something I learned from, I watched The Dirt, like on Netflix. Cause
that was a great, that was a great one.
That's like, and like I'm gonna
Ozzy snorting the ants.
Oh my gosh, the worst. But like one of the things they said was we want to bring a stadium show to these small venues.
Yep. Yeah,
and
that's
I'm like
100%.
I'm like, yeah, like it's something you don't think about because you're like, oh, people care about the music, that stuff will come later. But like some of the most successful local bands I've seen have lights and they have it programmed and they have backing tracks and like
the biggest challenge I find is like I feel like for some bands or some artists it's easier to find how that fits in. Do you know what I'm saying? So like for you guys for example, for your punk band, it's almost easier to bring a stadium show to a club for you guys because it seems laid out for you. Like you know you lights, you can get pyro and cryo and all that stuff, and so like when I try to conceptualize like what it would mean to bring a big show to a small audience, like in a club or something or a coffee shop or something like that or a little pub or whatever, I just don't know that my personal stuff, my genre necessarily would support that exact type of atmosphere because it's just not the same kind of energy, right?
Yeah, well,
so
for
I get,
sure.
like when I think of that, it makes me think of how many other like, and I still don't get me wrong. There's lots of things that I do now that, like I said, to make that small show bigger, right? But more when I think about that, like yeah, like you're totally right. Especially if you're in like your position where you can just like you can get all those things and set them up and. I don't mean to undersell that. Like, oh, just get all those things. It's expensive for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But it seems like a more laid out path. It seems like it's easier to figure out, right? And I just think of all the artists who maybe do something that's a little bit unorthodox, like maybe is like slightly less mainstream, but is still really cool.
Yeah.
And it's like, what does that mean for me to bring a stadium show to my stage, like to a small stage? What does it mean? And I mean, the essence of it is really simple, but in practice is maybe not as difficult, or is maybe more difficult rather. In the book Live Music Method by Tom Jackson, he talks about creating moments with your audience, and so the concept is basically like you have to choreograph your show in such a way where the way you move here, the way you move there, when to step in over here, when to have this like not it doesn't always have to be lights and things like those are definitely great aids to have, but there's a lot of things that I think a lot of bands don't realize that they have at their disposal that maybe aren't even things you have to buy or do. You just have to learn how to incorporate them into your show and talking to your audience or whatever. Anyway, I'm rambling. I just wanted to point that out because
yeah, well, like look at like artists like Ed Sheeran, right?
Yes,
like his my buddy went and saw him, and he's like, dude, it was crazy. He was just him and a loop pedal.
Yep,
and I'm like, yeah, like for that kind of music, you like it. Like, I mean, obviously at a higher level, like there's people who will find ways to do stuff like pyrotechnics and stuff, but like, it doesn't make sense starting out to be like have fire going off and like lights flying really quickly because like if you're just a guy and a guitar, people are there to see your talent. They're not there as much to be enveloped in this crazy show.
You got to find a way to distill what it is that's so special about your music and then share it with the audience in more than one way, because I feel like that's what a lot of bands do, right? They get up there and they play and it's like, okay, I hear what you're saying, and like for some people that's enough. Like for some people all they need to do is to hear the right thing and feel like it's about them or connects to their situation or whatever. For some people that's easy, right? But some people need a little more work, right? Like we need to make sure that the sound quality is good enough. We need to make sure the songs flow properly. We need to make sure we're saying the right things to the people to introduce the songs. Sometimes, like there's a million of these factors. I'm just saying, like I just feel bad for the people that, like I said, aren't like a rock band or a metal band or whatever. For them, they have to because it hasn't, maybe it's unorthodox. It hasn't been done. They don't have a clear laid out path to, okay, this is what my stadium show is going to look like. And I mean, yeah, I feel like you just have to spend some time meditating on what that would look like really think about, if I was in front of 50,000 people, what would my show look like? Yeah. Right. If I had everything laid out exactly how I want it to be, whether that's okay, more bandmates, like whatever it is. If you're in your final form, if you have all your sound, everything the way you want it, like what does that look like?
Final form.
Right, exactly. So that's, and then you got to learn how, and then you got to somehow figure out ways to bring that into the show that you're doing now.
Yeah.
At least parts of it, baby steps. But
For sure.
anyway, yeah, no, I wanted to bring that up. Didn't mean to step on what you're saying.
I don't even remember what I was saying.
Yeah, it's a real problem with these podcasts is I always go off the rails. And I'm like,
oh, dude, I have a horrible memory. Like, just brutal. I don't know how I remember songs on stage.
I have that problem. Yeah, for sure. Where I often it's less bad now than it ever has been. But in rehearsal, sometimes even I'll sing the wrong line, and then Logan will look over at me and just smile as he's playing. It's the worst feeling ever because I'm like,
Yeah.
I wrote that lyric.
Yeah, and it's like you think you'd remember it, but like I actually remember the covers. Well,
see, yeah, hey,
except for that Titanium song.
Yeah.
I used to cover
true.
Titanium by David Guetta and Sia, I think.
Yeah.
And I just like...
You can flip a coin. I remember every second night you'd forget.
Yeah.
A lyric.
Dude, it was brutal because I'd practice the song. Like, I remember the first time we played together, I practiced that specific song for like 2 hours.
Right.
And like got it nailed. And then I got up on stage, did the first verse, first chorus.
Out of your head.
And then the second verse was just gone. And I just was like, forget it. And went to the second chorus because it just wasn't happening.
Right.
But yeah, that song is the bane of my existence. I haven't played it for years. I love doing the cover. It's super fun, but I'm like, I can't. I'm not.
It's a good one for you. I like your version. It fits your voice and stuff too, especially for like I know you probably do, I know you don't do the like a solo acoustic shows so much anymore, but it was a good one for you when you were doing that for sure.
Well, and I'll probably
it'd be kind of cool to see as
a full band.
Yeah, as a full band.
That'd be cool.
Question.
Yeah.
How many bands are you playing in right now?
Currently in 2 bands, and then I do my acoustic music kind of still.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, just a little bit. Not like I haven't like played shows for it in a while, and
right.
I haven't the problem is I'll write something and I'll be like, this is super cool, and then I'll be like, oh, we could do something so cool with the band, like,
yeah.
And so I just end up taking it that way. But like, I don't know. I've like done a couple in the past year, I think.
Yeah, for sure. But you wouldn't say that you're pursuing your solo career, though,
no,
hey?
Not as much. I'll probably pick it up again one day when I like get better at guitar and stuff. But until that point, I'm like, I'm having too much fun.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like if you found, for me, the problem was just always finding people that were committed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was, so if you found a group of people that really, really enjoy what they're doing and you get along well with them and it works and everyone's in it, then like, why would you bother?
Yeah.
Especially if it's the thing that you're more passionate about, like 100%, dude. 100%.
Well, and I was lucky enough to find 2 groups of people.
Yeah.
Like my pop punk band, Only the Strong, like I told all of my members after we like had some personal issues with our last rhythm guitarist, I was
Drama. Do you want to put him on blast?
No, he's a cool guy. I like him. He's a nice guy, and I don't have any problems with him. It was just like we had different ideas of what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? I just don't think this is gonna work. But like after that, I looked at the rest of my bandmates. Like I think it was right after we finished recording the music video for Wake Up Call.
Mm-hmm.
I just looked at them and I was like, just so you guys know, this is the lineup. Like we can find somebody else if we want to, or we can use backing tracks for rhythm. But like if we get to a point where it's just not working anymore, and like we decide, oh well, this person's the problem, I'm just starting a new band. Like I just have no interest, because I'm like, this band right now, these 4 people that we have, I'm like, these are the people that created Only the Strong. Like we are this sound.
Yeah.
And losing any of them would mean changing the sound.
Right.
And so I'm like, if it just, we got into arguments as a band, because it happens, and sometimes bands break up, but like I don't see that ever happening with my band just because we get along
Right.
so well. But like, I just told them, I'm like, if that happens, I'm just done with Only the Strong. I'll start something else because I don't want to deal with it. I love the guys too much, and like it would be too hard to continue playing under that name.
Yeah.
With different people.
Right.
It just wouldn't feel right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the pop punk band, we like the opportunities we've gotten the past year are just insane to me. Like we got to play with Calling All Captains, they're from Edmonton.
Yep.
And then we got to play with Youth Fountain. I don't know where they're from specifically, but they're a really cool band, crazy dudes. And then we got to play with this band called Rarity, and they were insane to see and like so good. And now, which like by the time this is out, this will have passed, but like this Saturday, we're playing with Seaway, which is like a bigger deal. Like we're all like losing our minds over it because like we love Seaway. Seaway's a great band, and like we've always kind of looked at them and like they're one of those bigger bands that like we'd love to play with someday, but like who knows, right? Like they're a big successful band. They've made it. They have their place in the pop punk genre. And when we got offered the show, we were just like, are you kidding me? Like this is crazy. So like the opportunities we've had in the last year, I know would never have happened as acoustic, like
right.
as me just doing acoustic music. I like, and that isn't to say that I don't have faith in my acoustic music. I do. It's good music, and I like fully stand behind it. I've played it. I've seen the reactions from people, and I'm sure that if I fully pursued it and like made it the best I could get somewhere with it. But just like, I'm having too much fun to win. like I'm like, this is so much fun playing with the pop punk band, playing with the metal band Where Sickness Thrives, that I'm just like, I don't want to waste time trying to build this solo project right now,
right? Because
I'm already working on two different projects.
Yeah, I totally get that. And like, because for me, like I played in a rock band too. We were kind of pop punk, sort of, maybe a little more modern rock, bit of classic rock splash in there. But what I found was that it was hard to get people together. Like even with like, I loved the people I was playing. They were great people. There's nothing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not shit talking them at all. But it felt like there was, we weren't together. You know what I mean? There were things that weren't right. And what I kind of felt like was like, well, if I'm putting all this work in, if we're putting this work in, and then something falls apart, and then we're just not able to make it work, all that work is gone. You know what I mean? Like it's out there, but it's not like working anymore. You know, we're not a band anymore, right? Mm-hmm. And then so that's kind of why I still stick to what I do now, because I can do all the same things. I can have a band and all this, and if my band breaks up, I'm not going to quit myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, so if tomorrow my guitarist were to tell me like, hey, you know, I can't do this anymore. This is what's going on. I can't play anymore. I'd be like, oh, I'm sad to see you go. Right? I'd be really upset, but I wouldn't stop playing music, right? Because that's I have a show as a solo player, and I have a show with a band. You know what I mean? I have a show as a duo. Like it's grown to a point where I can accommodate almost any venue, almost any type of show it's going to be, and it's defined itself that way. And no matter what happens with the band or what happens with this particular person, whatever, I'm still playing the same songs, right? And there'll be people that I like playing with for sure, but I that would be really hard if it was like a band and then I felt, because I put a lot into it. Like I write a lot of songs and this, you know what I mean? And then for that to break up and then have to, you know, either again make the same decision like you were talking about, rebuilding that band under the same name with different people, and like that's a whole rebrand, different sound, and I don't know how I would deal with that. Like that would be hard.
And 3 Days Grace. I don't know if you ever listened to
Saint Asonia.
Yeah, so Saint Asonia with Adam Gonte was like, I liked them. They were good. There was a couple songs, like he had a love song on his record, and I was like, this is so weird, man.
That was a little odd. That was a little out of place. I agree.
But like their new singer for 3 Days Grace, I don't even know his name. I think it's like Matt Welsh or something.
Yeah,
but like as soon as they got him, I was like, you know what? You guys would have been good under a different name. Like
Yeah.
I would have been more into it. But like you guys aren't 3 Days Grace anymore.
Yeah.
Because you don't have.
They literally could have renamed their band not 3 Days Grace.
And it would have been just as effective. Like their new albums to me, I'm just like there is like generally one or two good songs on them, but like the old 3 Days Grace albums, I love the whole album because it was just like such a vibe. Like it was just such a cool feeling because it was all built around these members, and then when you just like when one's gone, it alters things. And to me, I'm like, if you are an established band and you're gonna get rid of like your lead singer,
like that's a hard bullet to bite.
And like I agree. I don't even
like replacing a guitarist is a tough thing, but it's less detrimental than losing like somebody that's writes and has like an iconic voice and personality. Right? Like that's a death blow, man. That is a death blow. It's
and
it's like I'm gonna take out your brain and I'm gonna replace it with somebody else's brain that's similar to you. Like it's not you anymore. Like,
and I was talking to our new guitarist for Where Sickness Thrives, Evan, and I was talking to them. I'm like, yeah, like a lot of people don't even think about this, and like it's not something that I'm gonna be like, oh, the vocals are the most important part, but like if you're listening to a song in passing, the thing that's going to stand out most of the time, not all the time, because there's bands that I've like just loved instrumentally and didn't really care about the vocalist, but like it's the vocalist sometimes or most of the time, because you can change your guitar tone to whatever tone. You can make any guitar roughly sound like any guitar. You can do that with bass, with drums. People can play the same way, but you will never be able to 100% match the tone of a singer.
This is true. There are. I would point out though, just not to be like, oh, but on this side, but there are a few cases of a few bands whose like guitar player is so iconic. That,
for sure.
Like, I mean, like, think about, like, AC/DC or Van Halen, or, like, there's just a few, you know what I mean? Like, there's a few special ones where it's, like, as soon as you hear, like, one note, you're like, oh, that's them. Yeah. And it's funny, isn't it? Like, but I agree with you, like, 100% that you're right, probably most of the time, and even in the cases of those famous bands where the guitarist is super noticeable or super memorable just by their sound in their own right, that even in those cases, the vocalist a lot of the time carries a lot of weight, where you'll hear them and they wouldn't be the same even if they maintain the rest of the band. Even in those cases, you'd have a hard time maintaining that band. And a lot of the time they didn't. Look at Van Halen. Once David Lee Roth left, it wasn't the same band anymore, right?
Yeah. Well, and people like recognize bands because they'll hear a band playing, like except for like the special cases like Van Halen and stuff like that, they'll hear a band playing and they're like, oh, who's this? And then they'll hear the singer and be like, oh, I know this band.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Because they know the sound of the vocalist.
What do you think that is? Do you think is it because most people aren't musicians, and even the people who aren't musicians can make, I guess, subconscious sense of the vocals and the lyrics more so than the rest of the band? Is that what it is?
I think kind of. I think how I land on it is like when people are listening to music, they sing along. Like they're like they don't,
non-musicians express themselves that way. Yeah.
They're in the car driving to work, or they're going to a party or something, and a song comes on and they're kind of singing along, even if it's just like a couple lines. That's like the thing that sticks in their head is the sound there, because they're singing with it.
Right.
And so like unless you're sitting at home with the guitar, you can't play along to a song in the car.
Right.
You can't play the drums along.
This is true. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Yeah.
And so like when you're singing along to a song, you're like memorizing the sound of the vocalist.
You're like laser focused to the vocal for sure.
Yeah.
And but it's just as funny to think of, because if you think about a recorded song, like, I mean, most people don't see it this way, but if you look at a song in a DAW or Pro Tools or whatever, you'll have like, maybe a dozen or more tracks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the vocal is like 2 of those, 3 of those,
Yeah,
maybe.
no, it's
Like,
not much.
No, it's literally like 10% of the song,
Yeah,
right? But it's just funny. It's an odd thing. It's funny.
for me, I recognize bands by their vocalists and songs by their instrumental.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
when I, like, my girlfriend and I do this thing where, like, she'll block my screen in the car
Okay.
of, like, the song title and artist name and stuff like that, and she'll just keep shuffling my phone
And make you guess it.
yeah, and, like, sometimes I'll hear, like, 2 seconds of a song and be like, it's this song, I know it, I already know it, and I, like, tell her the band, the song name, all that stuff, and it's just like, she's like, how do you do that? I'm like, well, I've memorized the instrumental now that I've, like, listened to the song, but, like, there are times where I can't quite place the song.
So you hear the vocal.
Well, not even that. I can't, like, I won't be able to figure out the song, but as soon as I hear the singer, I'm like, I know the band. Like,
Right.
100% know the band,
Right.
but, like, I don't know the song because I haven't, like, invested myself as much. Like, I haven't memorized the instrumental.
And a band will have like 100 songs.
Yeah,
Right.
like, you can only memorize so many.
And if you like 10 bands, well, there's 1,000 songs.
Yeah. I mean, granted, I know every Linkin Park song. I 100%, and that's something that I, like, say with pride, because there are songs by Linkin Park that I haven't listened to since I was, like, 13.
Right.
And if you, like, put them on, I could sing every word. I love Linkin Park. They were the biggest inspiration for me as a child, like, doing music and stuff like that when I wanted to.
Right.
And, like, throughout high school, when I actually started, like, focusing in and trying to do music,
Yeah.
Linkin Park was, like, the band that
Yeah.
I listened to all the time. And so, like, you put on any Linkin Park song and I can almost guarantee I'll know it, because I love Linkin Park. The only thing I won't know is the remixes sometimes that Mike Shinoda does, that I'm like, oh, well, I mean,
Yeah.
I listened to the actual song and I didn't like the remix as much because it's more dancey, and I love Chester Bennington's voice.
Right.
Like, oh, I had a goal when I was a kid to play a show with Linkin Park. And then when everything happened with Chester, I was just so heartbroken. I was like, I'll never get that chance to play with Chester Bennington.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Huh.
But yeah, no, I think it's easy to recognize a band by the vocalist and easier to recognize a song by the instrumental.
Right. Yeah.
Except for, like, pop music where the chorus is, like, the thing. Like,
yeah, where they have that, like, hooky sound.
Yeah, like that. Then, like, yeah, you'll recognize it from, like, the vocals.
There's
or,
a
like,
few of those too. Even like older songs where you're like, you'll hear a song from like the 80s or something, and you're like, "What is this song? I kind of recognize it, but I don't know it." And then when the chorus comes on, you're like, "Oh, it's this."
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, man. So give me a rundown here. The new song.
Yes.
What's the name of the song?
Wake Up Call.
Wake Up Call.
Yeah.
What's it about? What's the story?
So, like, it's kind of about, like, 100 things. Like, so Kyle came to me one day and showed me this, like, the riff, and I was, like, so into it. And, like, a fun fact is the song went through a complete rewrite the day we recorded the vocals.
Ooh, that's usually not a good sign.
Oh yeah, no, like, and it wasn't even like that the lyrics were bad. It was just like the original chorus was, "Oh God, I think it's coming together," and then, like, mostly the same things. And then we were recording with my buddies in Widmore, and I think it was Jeremy Richardson was like, "What if you said, 'Oh God, I'm not coming together'?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's cool, but it means that the rest of the song doesn't make sense." And so, like some of it we were able to keep the same. I had already rewritten the second verse, and so
hold on, time out. Do you guys not do pre-production?
No, we do. Yeah, we.
So what? How did that not get changed in pre-production then?
I don't know, man. I don't know. It just, like, it was a day, like, they thought of it that day, and I was like, yeah, that's like way cooler. And it was just something, it was a late idea.
Well, it's cool. It's cool that it came together that way, though. That is cool.
Well, and so, like, when we rewrote the song, I kind of had a different attitude towards it, because the original meaning of the song was just, like, the idea of, like, you can't listen to people who have done things like you can't always listen to people who are older than you because they're never going to understand some of the choices you make. And you can't listen to people who are younger because those choices don't make sense to them. You have to do what makes sense to you in the moment because you're the only one in that situation. And so it was like this whole song about like taking a leap of faith and like believing that everything will turn out okay. And then when we rewrote it, I just sat there and I was like, you know what? The song's meaning has changed. Like it means more to me now because I was going through like a super stressful time when I like rewrote the second verse after it was, but the second verse was such a crazy part for me because it was like so honest for me. Like the first line is, if not for nothing, I've accepted that we've tried. And I was like, it's a line to me that is like, sometimes you do things and the worst happens. Like everything goes wrong. And the only thing you can do is be like, well, we tried to do it and it just didn't work out. And so the song ended up meaning like, you can take this leap of faith and no one else will understand it. And sometimes the worst thing that you can possibly imagine is going to happen, but it could also be the best thing. And like sometimes there's a lot of bad things that come with doing the thing you wanted to do. Like, you know, as a musician, you don't have a lot of free time when you're out doing shows or recording or stuff like that. Like you don't get those free times. I don't get to go to parties as much anymore. And like that was kind of a big thing with the music video, was like realizing that party culture wasn't for me.
Right.
Like because the music video, which I've seen it. Yeah. I have a funny story to tell you about it, but like the music video like represents the idea of like a guy showing up, nice looking guy, clean cut, and he just gets thrown around to all these things. And he like, the people in the party don't care if you're comfortable with it. They're like, you're doing this. And so it was like, by the end of it, the person that was so clean cut is now with this band and they're playing, but they're not a part of the audience. They're not a part of the people who were drinking. They're separate because they've chosen a path in life that like,
but still existing in that world.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. Yeah.
And so like the whole, like it just, I kind of forgot where I was going. I have it, but it's like, but like, yeah, regardless, the whole song to me has just been this whole leap of faith. And it was like a really cool song for us because our first song that we put out, You Versus Me, was very alternative. And like, we all love it. It's a great song. It's just like, this song is so different from what we did.
It's interesting for me to see, to see this song, to see Wake Up Call, because the last song, You Versus Me, like you said, was very alternative. That's when I saw you on your own play a lot.
Yeah.
And so when you guys did that one as a band, it was interesting to see that come up as a song as the band. And now it's really interesting to see that contrasted with like, okay, here's the song that we wrote originally as a band, as opposed to this is Mason's song that now the band does. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it was definitely a bit different. Like I can see that distinguishment for sure. It's definitely different. So
but yeah,
that's
yeah.
It shows the growth and like you can hear the difference in like the band really wrote this song together.
Yeah, it was influenced by everyone. Like it wasn't just something that I wrote and brought.
So did you write the lyrics then?
Yes. Well, yeah. Like I mean,
so you wrote the original lyrics and they changed, obviously.
Yeah, I still ended up writing like
Most of them.
I still wrote the new lyrics. It was just like there were bits and pieces where Ruel and Jeremy from Widmore would be like,
right,
let's just change this line slightly, and it wasn't like they wrote it for me.
Well, that's not them writing. That's just production. Right?
Yeah,
so,
and
for sure.
And like they would always be like, well, I don't like this line. Write something else, and I'd be like, okay, and so I'd rewrite the line because that's what you do.
Yeah.
But if I had to sum up what Wake Up Call means in one sentence, it would have to be learn to accept things and take that leap of faith. Like, because
just do something.
Yeah, do something.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
Like,
good message.
Because so many people, like when I started doing music, there were so many. rappers or bands that were like,
I know.
where they're like, oh, I'm a rapper, I'm a band, and then they consider going to parties, studying for their material.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're not.
Yep.
You're not a musician. You like to go to parties and you like to brag because
Yeah.
you're not actually doing anything.
Yeah.
And like I said to somebody the other day who was talking about SoundCloud rap, and then somebody from behind was like, oh, don't knock SoundCloud rap. And I was like, no, here's the thing. SoundCloud
rap.
Oh, no, not even that. Like SoundCloud rap can be great. And like even if I don't like it, even if you don't like it,
But being a rapper on SoundCloud doesn't make you an artist.
yes, like if you are a SoundCloud rapper and you're actively pursuing a career in music,
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
You do you. You wear that title and you do it great.
Yeah.
But
Or as the rappers like to say, you got to be grinding.
Yeah.
Every day you got to be grinding.
Oh, but if you're like a SoundCloud rapper who has like 2 songs out and you like don't really do anything, you don't pursue music, you don't play shows, you don't have a page, you just have SoundCloud, and then you go around telling people, "Oh, I'm a rapper, check me out on SoundCloud." Like, dude, you're not. You're just a guy who made a song.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like,
No, there
yeah,
isn't.
For sure. Like I said earlier, there's room for people that like wrote a song and want to record their one song. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, you're right. Like there has to be some level of distinguishment between people who work really hard
Yep.
to like actively write new music and record it, and they're paying their bills and they're working their day jobs, and then at night they're doing what we're doing. You know what I mean? Like there has to be a distinguishment between those people and the people that like kind of like music.
Yeah.
You know, like I agree 100%.
Like the odds of putting a song out and having it just blow up out of no, like you didn't advertise, you didn't push for it, you didn't like, it's not plausible anymore. Like, and I don't think it ever was. Yeah. I don't think it ever was.
The difference is you had like really rich financiers behind you that did all the work on the backside.
Yeah.
And even then, like, I don't mean to make that derogatory to the bands that were successful in the previous era, like, because also they were doing the work also. I think a lot of the time, one of the criteria for getting through that gate, to those gatekeepers, was they had to have that work ethic established. And if they didn't, they just wouldn't finance them, right?
Yeah.
Even if you were really good and everything, like you had great material, you were a great writer, blah, 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 but you didn't have the work ethic necessary to live that life and to do everything, like why would they invest thousands of dollars in you, right?
And like the only difference between then and now, and why people think, oh, I can just put the song up and be big, is you didn't see the work back then.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, the work wasn't, I'm going to get on social media and be posting every day,
right,
and like creating content that my followers can engage with. And then I'm going to be putting out a song every 3, like, I mean, not like everybody has to do this, but like there are bands I know that are like, we need to put something out every 3 months.
Right.
And,
yeah. It's a good rule to follow.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, 100%. Like I totally believe you. That's what you got to do. And like, that was something that we hated when we put out You Versus Me, is we put out You Versus Me, and it was really great. And then we put that out in January, and Wake Up Call came out in October. And I'm like, that was our first song, and we didn't do anything. Like we played a lot of really great shows. We had a great time. We built up a following in Calgary, but like we played our first out of town show last weekend in Lethbridge. Mm-hmm. And it was like super fun. I would do it again, and I definitely want to do it all over. I would love to tour the entire world playing music, but like you have to put in the work. And so people who tell me like, oh yeah, I put out music, check it out and stuff, I'm like, oh, like what did you do? Like I want to know how you market, because I want to learn. And they're like, oh, I don't
market.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh cool, so this is a hobby for you, this isn't a career you're pursuing. And they're like, well no, like I want to do it as a career. And I'm like, then do it. Yeah. Like
do something.
Yeah. Like music is a career where you have to put in so much money before you make anything.
Yeah. You know how many emails I send a week?
Crazy amounts, dude.
No idea. Yeah. It's
crazy amounts.
I agree. And don't get me wrong too. Like I'm sure there are going to be people that are listening to this and on one hand are going to like grit their teeth like, oh, that's me, I'm not working hard enough. Listen, if you're feeling like I'm not working hard enough, that's the first step to you starting to work hard enough, right?
Exactly.
And I feel that way too. Like all the time I'm like, oh, I didn't do this, or I should have started working on this. Oh, I shouldn't have been so lazy last night or yesterday. Like, yeah, like we're all going to occasionally not do the thing that we should do, and that's, neither here nor there. But the fact of the matter is at the end of the day, the work gets done or it doesn't. If it doesn't get done, that means you don't get to reap the rewards, right?
Yeah.
And so there's got to be a degree of work that gets done. And yeah, if you're one of those people that just puts out music without a plan, you can't really hope for success.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I'm surprised you versus me did so, like, well, because we almost have like 2,500 listens on it, and I don't think we advertised at all. Like, I think it was just like we put it out and just shared it on our page and was like, cool. And then like we would be playing with other bands and people would check us out. So I was like, I'm happy about how it did. Like,
right.
Especially
it
without.
I would point. It's easier as a band too because you have like there's like 4 people in your band, 4 or 5.
4 right now.
4.
Yeah.
Right. So divided between 4 people, they can share that with all of their friends, because all their friends and family are going to want to be like, hey, what's your band, right? And so like that's, if you're like one guy, you're going to have obviously generally less people than a band would. But like, no, for sure, it's a good thing that it does good even without assistance. We should talk after we're done this, because I have some stuff I can give you that would probably help you with some
That'd be sweet.
things like Spotify or whatever.
I had a point and I think I lost it, and I'm kind of sad.
You were surprised that it did so well despite having not being.
I think it was before that though. Yeah,
That's right.
I don't know.
It takes work, and you got to do something.
I remember. Yeah, the idea, like the feeling of I'm not working hard enough.
Yeah. It's an indication, right, that you're at least on the right path.
Yeah, like not even that for me though. Like I fully believe that I can never work hard enough. Like
That's
I could, and I'm just like, the idea that I feel like I'm not working hard enough pushes me to work harder.
Yes.
And then when I get to that point and I meet people who are working harder than I am, I'm like, I gotta work harder.
Yeah.
So like, I wouldn't even feel bad if I was sitting there, because when you were like, oh yeah, like you don't want to like be like that person who thinks that, but like I love that. I love the idea that because like to me that means that I have the want to work harder.
Yes, I agree that it shows your like if you're asking because there are the people like, and I think these were the people you were referring to. There are the people out there that have no concept of what it means to do that. Like you said, like, okay, what are you doing? Where's your work, right? And they're like, well, I don't know. I just recorded it and put it out, right?
Yeah.
If they have no semblance of I'm not working hard enough at this, they don't even know there's work to be done.
Exactly.
So yeah, I 100% agree. If you're at least asking yourself that question, like what needs to be done, I need to be doing more, and you have that like nagging self-doubt in the back of your head, like most musicians probably do that really want to pursue this, you're right. That's a good sign. You're at least asking yourself the right questions to find the direction to go. Like,
yeah. And the best advice I can give to anybody starting out in music is fail. Like just over and over again, because you will learn time and time again what doesn't work.
Yeah. Before
you'll do that 1,000
just do
times.
something.
Well, you'll do that 1,000 times before you find the thing that works.
Yeah.
Right? Like I did acoustic music, just solely that, for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is really good, but I don't think I can get to where I want to be with this.
But what it did was it established you as somebody who was playing and made people want to play with you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't look at my acoustic, like, because I don't look at my acoustic music then and now like a failure. I look at it as I learned a lot doing acoustic music, and then I applied it to a band. And then when I started doing a band, like when I started Only the Strong, I learned a lot then. And then when I joined Where Sickness Thrives, it was funny because like our original lineup for Only the Strong was really great, and like me and Nico, our bassist, are the only like members left that started out. And like obviously as an exception to him, but I started playing with the metal band and went, we gotta pick it up. Like we are just shitting the bed on the punk band, because these guys are so much more professional. They have equipment. They show up to practice. They practice for 3 hours, and like they go hard on it. And so then when I came back to punk band practice, I was like, all right, guys, we're going to practice for 3 hours and we're going to go hard, and we're going to, like, we got the equipment we needed. I went out that weekend and bought a speaker for my mic, because I was like, we don't have one and I need one. We can't keep doing acoustic practices. So I went out and bought one, and I bought my own mic, and I bought a mic stand, because I was like, if I want to do this, I need to do it. I can't keep being like, well, it'll happen. And so, like, I learned a lot of things working with my metal band, Where Sickness Thrives. And, well, I shouldn't say because I joined them, but, like, I learned a lot of things. I still do from both bands, but I learned a lot of things working with my punk band from Only the Strong, or my pop punk band, Only the Strong. And, like, I can apply them to both, because you learn what does and doesn't work. So the idea of failing over and over again is the only way to progress in music, because you have to make mistakes. Nobody's going to start doing music and do it 100% right the first time.
Right.
Like, it's just like, sure, I guess somebody could.
Could you imagine making those mistakes at a high level?
Yeah.
Like, that would be terrible. Like, can you imagine that? Like making, like, rookie mistakes when you're playing a show in front of, like, 10,000 people.
Yeah. Like, it's
that would be a nightmare.
Exactly.
Like, because I think about that sometimes. Like, if you, because we're all trying to get to a point, right? We have ideas in our heads of what we want to achieve, or what kind of audience we want, how big of live shows we want to play, other bands we want to, all kinds of things, right? All kinds of, goals to hit and whatnot. And sometimes I think about, mistakes that I've made when I'm playing, and it's like, oh, well, I'm glad I wasn't playing in front of a lot of people when I did that, or I'm glad nobody saw this post. Stupid things, right? Where you're like,
or when I'm cupping the mic and you keep commenting on my photos.
Stop cupping the mic.
Dude, I still do it.
You do.
I still do it. I still, like, I'll be like doing a show and I'll be cupping the mic and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I just, like, grab the bottom and slide my hand down, because I'm like, I'm sure the sound guy is sitting on the side of the stage,
face palming,
like just. This guy, like, just so mad, and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't be doing this. It's such a hard habit to break.
Proper vocal technique.
Yeah.
No. I mean, like, but this, we just opened up a big can of worms. There's gonna be so many. Anyway, so many people are gonna be like, cupping the mic is a style and it changes the sound, and I'm like,
yeah, and it pisses sound guys off, and they all hate you. So
yeah,
like,
in the words of Tyson, if you don't believe that the mic was designed not to be cupped, why don't you call Shure, who spent thousands and thousands of dollars perfecting that technology? They'll tell you how to hold the mic.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and, like, the other problem is, they're like, if you're cupping the mic, you change your grip on stage. Like, you'll switch hands and stuff like that. So when you're cupping the mic and you're screaming into it and you get that sound that you want, okay, cool. But, like, when you release that and start doing other things, your sound changes, and the sound guy has to quickly change things to make it sound right again, because suddenly it's completely different.
Yeah, and like, it doesn't necessarily make a lot of difference on a lot of smaller stages with lower decibel levels and things like that. But like we were talking about, making mistakes in front of big crowds. Imagine being on like a stadium. Like, a stadium is a terrible place for sound, because it's so big and so round. The sound is bouncing around everywhere, and the volume has to be so loud, right? So if you're cupping the mic on a stage like that, a mic is designed to have a little dampener at the back of it, so when the monitor goes up, the sound waves you're not getting feedback through the back of the mic. But when you cover up the top, it changes the rate at which the transients hit each other.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if I'm describing that properly, but basically, with high levels of sound, you can create really nasty feedback loops.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're on a big stage with a high amount of volume, like just huge sound pressure levels, you could really cause nasty, and you could destroy those PA systems.
Yeah, and like I don't, like, every once in a while I'll see it, but I don't think I generally see a big band that cups the mic.
Yeah,
like,
there's a few examples people like to point to.
And my thing for those is, like, they're always cupping the mic. I know
they're never not doing it.
Yeah, like I know
So the
it
sound
creates.
guy adjusts for that specifically, and
Yeah,
then he doesn't have to change it.
Like they don't stop cupping the mic, and like that isn't to say if you're gonna cup the mic, always cup the mic. It's just like, okay, fine, I get your argument, but like, it's a bad technique that they do all the time that the sound guy can account for. But like,
It's true.
9 out of 10 times, people don't always do that. I don't hold the mic the same way the hold set. I switch hands. I grip it at the bottom.
It just sounds like this when I hear people cupping the mic.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
just sounds like this.
Yeah,
It doesn't sound good.
And if you get off stage, because I got off stage once, and my mom, who came to the show, was like, I couldn't understand you, and I was like, yeah, I cupped the mic too much. Because it's just like, if you can't be understood, you're either slurring your words, which I know I don't do because I make sure I don't slur words on stage. Which, yeah, like, I mean, I don't drink before shows or anything, so like, that helps. But, like,
there's a certain range of frequencies that the ears can make out better.
Yeah.
And when
you're doing this, sometimes when you're trying to speak and sing, and like depending on the pitches of volume, it's harder for certain people to hear those ranges of frequencies.
Exactly.
So I understand what you're saying. Yeah, the utility of it is a little lost on me in most cases.
Like, it can look cool if you're not a musician. Like, I see some people and they got like the head, like some photos where they're like cupping the mic and their head's like down and they're on one knee screaming, and it can look really cool, but it doesn't sound good 9 times out of 10. And so it's like, okay, if you want to look cool on stage, in a way, like, it doesn't look cool to me anymore because I know why it's not good.
Yeah, because you've moved on to the point where you realize knowing how to use your tools properly is probably cooler than looking cool to the people who don't know how to use those tools.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, like you wouldn't play your guitar with a hammer.
No.
Like,
no,
so
I would not play my guitar with a
yeah,
hammer.
like you use a pick.
Or a pair of scissors.
Yeah, because you use a pick because that's what you're like. That's the proper thing to use, or your fingers because that's the depending on your kind of music.
Yeah, and it even boils down to the point where there's specific picks that a guitarist will like, right?
Yeah,
because he likes that sound. Like for sure.
Like my guitarist Kyle loves thick picks.
Yeah,
he's like, I hate like thin picks that bend. I like thick picks that I can get that strong sound out of. And I'm like, I totally get it. And then I like really loose picks because I play acoustic guitar and I like it just brushing against it kind of instead of like crashing into it.
Yeah.
So like, it's just, you wouldn't take a hammer to your guitar. Stop taking a hammer to your mic. Don't cup the mic. Don't
you heard it here first. Tips from Mason Brooks.
Don't take a hammer to your mic.
Don't cup the mic. It's bad news bears.
It's like duct taping the outside of your mic. Like, you wouldn't do it.
No.
You just wouldn't. No. So why are you covering it?
Yeah.
There you go. That's my rant on freaking cupping the mic.
I'm glad you went there because I went there. That's funny. That's good. I'm glad you can admit it, even though you do it once in a while.
Oh yeah.
I'll always comment on your photos and tell you not to do it.
Yeah, and like everybody makes mistakes live, and like that's my big thing is like I gotta like be actively not cupping the mic because sometimes I just like switch hands and I grab it weird and I'm like, oh, my hand's there, and I start singing and I'm like, and it's too high up.
I imagine I mean, like I'm always on a mic stand, right? So I never there's a few times, like if I'm doing a piano, sometimes we'll do the piano version of Monday Live or something like that, and I'll either grab the mic or I'll kind of like rap on the stand or something like that. But generally, I'm not on the mic, and I imagine that if you're a vocalist and you're kind of walking around and you're handheld a lot of the time, there's probably situations where you maybe end up doing things with the mic that you don't generally intend to, or your technique isn't maybe quite as developed as you'd like it to be, or whatever. But
and it just comes with practice.
Stuff happens on stage, but
yeah. Not to cut this short, but I don't have a lot of time.
Hey man, it's all good. We've been going for a while. Let's just do some quick plugs for you. So, what are your bands again?
My pop punk band is Only the Strong, and my metal band is Where Sickness Thrives.
Where can we find those groups?
Like their social media pages, or
how to if somebody's listening to this and they want to find you or check you out.
I mean, if you want to follow us on social media, Only the Strong on Facebook, and then Only the Strong Official on Instagram.
Mhm.
We don't have a Twitter because Kane went to make our Twitter and then put our birthday as the day he created the account. So now we have to prove that we're over 18 because they think we're 1 day old. And then
That's funny.
yeah, it's like such a funny mistake, and he's going to kill me for saying that. But then you can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, stuff like that. And then my metal band is Where Sickness Thrives on both Facebook and Instagram, and you can find us on Spotify as well.
Right. And Only the Strong is the one with the newest single, correct?
Yes, Wake Up Call, yep.
Okay,
Only
Wake
the
Up
Strong
Call
is,
on-
yep.
yeah.
And we have the music video out on our Facebook as well as YouTube, which is, you can just look up Only the Strong Wake Up Call
Sure.
official music video. It comes up.
There you go. So you're playing that show on Saturday. Is there any other events that are coming up that...
No, surprisingly. We actually are taking a unofficial couple month break from shows
Yep.
to work on recording so we can get another EP out.
New material?
Or, well, a EP out, not another.
AEP.
But yeah, we're going to be spending the next couple months writing and stuff like that.
Exciting.
So Saturday, I believe, is our last show for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And then we might be setting something up early next year, and then we'll put out
Depending on
another
how
single.
recording goes.
Yeah, we're hoping to get another single out by at least the end of the year, maybe.
It's the way to do it, man. Regular releases as opposed to big ones. That's what I'm seeing now. A lot of makes sense.
It's really popular to do it because like that way you can keep engaging your audience.
Breaks up the cost, everything.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, for sure.
So yeah, so nothing big for the rest of the year. Just writing music for more people to get into.
Cool. Very cool. And what about you? Where can people, if people want to follow you, where do they find you?
Yeah, I have a Facebook page, Mason Brooks Music, same as an Instagram, Mason Brooks Music as well. And then I don't have anything out on Spotify. I have stuff on YouTube, but like,
Just Google it.
yeah, I think
Google it.
I think I have a bio like on Facebook with the links to it, and
Right.
I had a website, and then I did the coding for it.
Yeah.
And it was going super good, and then I like decided, oh, I'm gonna do it completely different, and I broke the website, and I just have no intention of fixing it.
Well, if you're not playing your own music, on your
Yeah,
own anymore.
that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
but yeah,
Right on, man. Thanks for coming all the way down from Calgary. I know it's not exclusively a special trip for this, but I appreciate you taking the time and
Yeah.
coming in here. And,
thanks for having me.
yeah, for sure. And we'll have to get you back in here when you get your new material out. You
For
can
sure.
Give that a plug. I'm excited to hear it, see what it looks like. So, Mason Brooks, thanks very much, man. Appreciate it.
Word.